Welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, where today we will have part 2 of our interview with Most Worshipful Brother Jimmy Norton, Grand Master of the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons of Washington.
Ladies and gentlemen, brethren all, welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, a casual conversation around Freemasonry. First, it's important to note that our thoughts and opinions are our own and do not reflect those of our Grand Lodge or respective craft or concordant bodies. Please connect with us and ask questions via our website at theworkingtoolspodcast.com.
Today on the Working Tools Podcast, we have our usual crew of hosts. I'm Matt Appel, and I'm a member of Mill Creek Lodge number 243 in in Montlake Terrace, Washington. We have very worshipful brother David Colbeth, who's a member of King Solomon number 60 in Auburn, Washington. Brother Craig Graham from Kalamalka number 160 in Vernon, British Columbia. And we have our honored guest, who we're grateful to have back again, Most Worshipful Brother James C. Norton Jr., Grand Master of the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge Free and Accepted Masons of Washington. In case you couldn't guess, as Grand Marshal, it's my job to do that periodically. Just when we were talking right before the episode started, Grand Master, you were talking about the paragraph you had woven together of the other previous Grand Masters' messages. So if you wouldn't mind expounding on that.
No, I'm happy to. I think it's interesting because each one of the Grand Masters in all the jurisdictions literally have an opportunity to pick a theme. And I struggled with mine for a long time. And one of the things that I had always written when I wrote articles and that kind of thing, I would always end them with, essentially brethren, please ensure that everything you do will empower, enlighten, or uplift those around you. And when I had made myself available, our daughter was home from college, and I had her proofread one of my articles, and it was getting about time to start thinking of, a theme for the year. What do you want to have for a theme for the year? And, I was originally pretty locked into, paving our path for the future was what I had originally thought about, because every single one of us gets to put a paver in that path for the future when you have the honor to be elected. And she just kind of smiled and highlighted the empower, enlighten, and uplift. And I'm like, all right, that'll work. And as I started to think about it, I went through, because we've lost some grandmasters over the years, and they made a huge difference in my life. They were encouraging, they were mentoring, they were, what I had hoped for as a grandmaster. And that's a lot of where, when I chose the theme, I chose it with intent because I just wanted to be my brother's brother and have the honor to serve. And one of the things that I wanted to do, and it took some time on it, was to go through and see if prior grandmasters' themes could really tell a story about our craft and provide insight in their paver that they put in making a difference in the craft. And what I came up with is there's 15 of these that are in it. And when I had made myself available, going around to introduce myself to the different districts and stuff, I would always end talking to them with this. And I would challenge the brethren. And more often than not, several of these grandmasters were in the room. And when I would go through it, I would just see them smile and light up because it was reminding them that they made a difference. And what I came up with was that we should have great expectations for our membership to be the difference, building bridges to provide light to those who seek it, while we learn and change to better communicate to educate our membership, so each and every brother can walk the talk every day and in every way, because we are one Masonic family, living united, committed to knowing thyself first, so we can live the legend that is Freemasonry, and are committed to being all in to ensure what we do will empower, enlighten, and uplift those around us. And when I got finished writing it, I just kind of smiled. I really did. Because themes and what the difference that they made in the craft can be put into a story and put into, a challenge new members, new master masons that, we talk about having an elevator speech ready. and they often ask, what is that? And it's like, if somebody asks you, why should I be a Mason? Why should I become part of the Masonic fraternity? How are you going to answer that? And those cause for pause moments are opportunities. And they're opportunities that I think every single one of us that has the honor to be a member of our craft needs to be prepared for it, from the oldest member to the youngest member. What do you like about it? What are you interested in it? It's the stories of boring meetings, cold coffee, and stale donuts, kind of a thing, to, what are you doing? What are you doing in the community? Being out there in the community and being able to weave this kind of gave me that, I won't say a leg up, but it gave me an opportunity to celebrate what is great about our craft from the themes that the past grandmasters had put for what their theme was for the year. And when you look at those 15, you've already got a roadmap. You got a roadmap for what masonry is and how it should be, and then share your own experience with the brothers or the inquirers.
Speaking about being out there, since we had talked with you prior to your fundraising event, what happened with the fundraising event? How did that go?
It was amazing. It was a Grandmaster's Gala that we put on. The funds that we raised for it were over $70,000.
Wow.
The funds are going to, each Grandmaster has an opportunity to select a charity. My charity is vocational and trade schools. If you look at the outer world, it started and was predicated because the company I've worked for, I've been there for 40 years. And in the last 5 years, 5 to 7 years, I started seeing postings that would come out that required a bachelor's degree to work in a warehouse or to drive a forklift, or not minimal work, but entry-level work. And I called our corporate headquarters in Florida, and or for the U.S., they're in Florida. And I asked them, I said, I'm really curious. I've been around here for a while. Why are applications and job postings for counter people, warehouse assistants, driving a forklift, why are they requiring a bachelor's degree? And their answer was that it shows dedication. And I paused for a minute and I'm like, okay, I'm not trying to be disrespectful here, but $160,000 bill for a parent for somebody to go to college that may or may not have a specific degree in mind that they want to do shows dedication. I think their willingness to work is more about the dedication. And I came from trade schools. It's kind of how I got into what I'm doing now, that didn't require college education. Our daughter's the first one in the family that graduated from college. And she's amazing. And the education made a huge difference for her. But I think, like in our electrical world, being able to provide an opportunity for men or women, doesn't matter the sector or anything else is concerned, to learn a skill that they can provide a good livelihood is important more now than ever. But the gala was amazing. Absolutely. I cried a lot. The generosity of the brethren and everybody that was there was humbling, because they knew it was going to a good cause. And I'm partnering up with all the funds that I raised with the junior past Grandmaster Steve's funds, so that we can get a better return from both of them to make a difference on his philanthropy that he chose, as well as my philanthropy that I chose, so that we can help more kids, more young adults be able to make a living and make a good living.
I think, if I remember correctly from your previous interview, you started off as a diesel mechanic, or at least that's what you initially went to school for.
Yep.
And it's amazing how life changes, right? And opportunities present themselves, but also you being prepared and being ready and able to take advantage of those opportunities is a unique story.
Yep. It was one of those to where specialized in fuel injection specialist was one state year after year. Came out of high school, and even before high school, process for the military for engineman. Got an incredibly high score on all of their testing, and went in to go to boot camp and got a medical check. Went in and did the check, came back, got another medical check, spent 10 days down at Fort Lewis at the time. Went through their rigorous stuff to make sure that I could be on a sub and I could be on a ship and the body would take it. And at the end of the day, I was deemed medically unable, which broke my heart because that's really what I wanted, is what my family's done. And I kind of was lost for a little bit and fell into the electrical side of it. Had a mentor that just took me under their wing, showed me plans, showed me engineering, showed me how to draw, went to extended school so that I could make sure that I could dot the I's and cross the T's the way I was supposed to. Didn't want to graduate from it because I didn't want to get pigeonholed to just being on blueprints for the rest of my life. But got enough and went to the manufacturer schools and got all their certificates to do infrastructure and military work and do it well.
I don't imagine that the Washington Masonic Services folks watch our podcast, but boy, wouldn't that be a great testimonial video to have available for scholarships as they are looking for applicants? That would be a really neat story, Grandmaster. And I the guys have heard me say it, and I even said it with the Grandmaster of BC Yukon, Mark Forster, that things happen as if by magic. And his theme, I've said that I say things happen automatically, or things happen as if by magic. And then I read his speech, and we had him on, and I was like a fanboy. I was gushing the whole conversation, and I just was super excited about that idea of his theme, that the magic is within. And boy, doesn't it play off exactly your theme together as if by magic. That
literally
the magic is within you, and it allows you to be enlightened and empower and uplift people in that process. And so
exactly,
it gives me tingles thinking about it, Grandmaster.
like I said, that's been one of the crown jewels, traveling with the 5 different jurisdictions around us and seeing how we all play off each other. We all have that joy of the fraternity, and the themes interwoven regularly, no matter where we're at. And Mark's included mine, Rick's included mine, Tim's included mine, in theirs, and I've done the same thing. That like I said, those are our favors. They're our favors for success, and we're building, every chance we can.
So, Jimmy, is there any how do I put this? Do you have any unfinished business leaving office? Anything that was worked on or has been worked on for a while that you'd like to see going and resolve itself at some point?
I think the one thing that I really love about our jurisdiction is that the craft is selecting the next junior every year that really accents what the other officers are doing. And we're pretty cohesive from the top down and from the bottom up, that if our junior grand has something he wants to look at doing, it goes all the way up. And if it's something that I can help, plant the seed for it or start to turn, the field a little bit for it or what have you, to maintain that momentum. And I think that's one of the unique things I've seen in our jurisdiction and several others that are around us too, that everything we're doing is an and, but it also includes from the newest to the top and from the top to the newest on helping them be successful. There's, some initiatives that I'd like to see, come into play, but it's also one of those to where, as we're growing, we're going through some growing pains, and helping alleviate some of those were kind of a priority for me, that let's give everybody that opportunity and work within the lodges for making sure that they're making the right choice, and that cause for pause, so not you fogged the mirror here, sign your name. And that's going over incredibly well.
I've often wondered how explicit it is when you guys meet. If does the junior grand warden say, these are the 3 things I want to do, and the senior grand warden says, no, you're an idiot, and we're going to do these 3 things, and then is there an interplay there, or does it just sort of happen magically, or do you guys have a process?
It's kind of like making a home cooked dinner with your grandparents and your great grandparents, and you open up the closet or you open up the pantry, and you don't have what they used to use, but this will work, or this will be okay, or this will enhance it, or I've never tried this before, that kind of a thing. So in our jurisdiction, as well as several of the other ones, but I'll speak on ours, we are incredibly blessed that the brethren have selected the next step, essentially, that accents what we're all doing. They're out there talking to them, and the membership's taking the time to get to know them to where they are going to continue to build that path. You're right, man. There are opportunities to where you're like, yeah, no, thanks for playing. We're not all going to have, fuzzy slippers and everything else when we go to one log. But everybody that's bringing things to the table are bringing it to the table to accent or improve the craft. And how could you go wrong? It may not be right timing, but it may not be right timing right now. It doesn't mean that that's, not a good idea. And if it's a good idea, how can those that are in front of them help set that up for success?
And it's great too that the team has kind of revived, if you will, and reemphasized the 6 supports, which helps to develop a framework around ideas. And for years, I was advocate about it, trying to say, Grandmasters, it doesn't have to be structured in that the membership experience doesn't have to be your theme, but what you do, the idea of empowering, lightning, and uplifting, you can weave into the structure of the 6 supports and re-emphasize the idea of empowering and getting out in the community or helping concordant bodies as you do. And so they can weave together just how a message does. So it doesn't have to be the only thing.
Right. And I think one of the things that we've done, and it will continue through all of the other brethren that are following me, that every single committee chair that we have on all of our committees are charged with picking at least a minimum of 3 of the 6 supports and validating how your committee supports those. And if it doesn't, what are you going to do to change it so it does? And having that strict admonishment that it's not optional. It being able to validate the committee. And if there's a committee that can't, in my opinion, we don't need them. It's not a title. It's not anything. It show value. And I think that's one of the messages that we've got crystal clear out to the craft, that it's not so you have a white name tag and a title. You got a job to do. And if there's a challenge with that job, I've can tell you already, during my opportunity to serve, I've taken and removed committee chairs and replaced committee chairs because that's not optional. Failure's not optional on it. You have what the code says on what that committee is to do. How are you enhancing it? Do the work, but how are you enhancing it?
That's actually one of my common recommendations, that the unsolicited advice that I give to future grandmasters is, there was a time, at least, when I was committee chair, I was told, yeah, just do what the code says. And, well, yeah, but do you have any goals? What are we supposed to be doing? It says something in the code. You just go ahead and do that. No, that's, it is to figure out what you want the committees to do ahead of time and send them off to accomplish something.
And I think that what's a blessing is that the next grandmaster up isn't giving him a different instruction. The next one up's giving him a different instruction. Next one up giving him a different instruction. We're all really unified on this. When it goes to your question originally, that collaboratively as a team, it's amazing. It really is. And they post stuff that I hadn't thought about, but it's a good idea. And is it something I can execute? 100%.
That's interesting then, because I had often wondered, without having a lot of experience at the higher levels of this organization, that, this yearly theme that the grandmasters come in with. And I thought, no, it's interesting, but I don't see, they come in, they talk about something, and then they're gone, and we take up a new subject. But you've kind of changed my opinion of it, since the fact that, you realize that you're grandmaster for 1 year, but you're part of the line for a much longer period of time. Mm-hmm. So there is a weave that goes through this. There is a continuity, and that your year is supported by 3 people behind you, and one who is in the sort of the conciliaries role, to use an oblique mafia reference, but one that's advising you after having done his year. And so it's a much more continuous process than I'd sort of thought it was.
And it's almost every single past grandmaster is involved in one way or another, whether it's just as a phone call to lean on, whether it's, have you ever experienced this? I think it was interesting during, my opportunity to serve this jurisdiction for the year that I've actually had, I think, 3 or 4 firsts. And I would call the oldest past grandmaster to the youngest one to, prior grand secretary to current grand secretary, going, what did we do last time? And it was just usually stuttered with, we've never had to. And I'm like, okay, great. So, having that opportunity to respond to or react to first in our jurisdiction is humbling, but it's also terrifying to make sure that whatever precedents I set for it is well-founded and for the betterment of the craft and the right thing to do. And on all 3 of them, it was not questionable. It was just exactly what was needed.
And I think on that note, Grandmaster, thank you for your dedication to the craft over the course of the last year. Thank you for appearing on our show more than once, which no one should be subjected to. And thank you for your time this evening. We appreciate it. And we look forward to talking to you again, maybe in a couple of years as a past Grandmaster and seeing what you're up to. So,
or the new chair of the Committee on Recognition for Conference Grandmaster.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, that could
plant a
happen.
seed. Plant a seed.
Just plant the seed, but I promise it won't start with, oh, I wouldn't have done it like that my year, but my year, we'd have done,
Gotta be a little more gruff. Gotta be a little more gruff voice if you.
I
Most wishful Cameron Bailey is
the. Wore my apron while I was going uphill both ways.
Exactly. No, I appreciate everything you guys are doing to help share the craft. I really do.
Thanks.
Well, thank you, sir, and thank you all for listening to the Working Tools podcast. On behalf of me and David and Craig and the absent Steve, thank you for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you.
Goodbye.